Welcome to ViviTalks. I'm Vivienne Aerts. Join me in celebrating 100 talented female musicians from my last album, Typuhthâng, empowering female cacao farmers in Congo's Virunga State Park and restoring the rainforest. Delve into the musical journeys, creative processes, and unique perspectives of these talented women that were involved in the making of this album. Listen to a conversation between your host Vivienne Aerts and Italian violinist and singer-songwriter Giulia Duchi, Emily Chooks, as she discusses her journey from Berklee College of Music to the magical musical connection she shares with her partner in crime, Noé Zagroun, in their electro-pop duo.
Well, let's dive right into it. Welcome to my official podcast. And I want to obviously hear all about you and your new projects coming up. But let's start at the beginning. I remember we met at Umbria Jazz. Do you remember which year it was? Because
I think it was 2011, I think. Because I did two Umbria. The first one in 2010. I was like 13. And then the second one in 2011 with the Sarah, right? The songwriting one. Yes. I remember. It's crazy. It's been a long time.
That was it. And you also played violin. I remember that.
Yes.
Right?
Actually, it was kind of my main thing for the longest time because I started when I was very, very young with piano, like obviously a classic thing. And then very early on, I was like, okay, I like the piano. And I kept it like kind of at the same level of attention that I gave to the instrument for many years. But then I really wanted to play violin. And I remember I was like 5 almost. And it was a bit early. And I was like, I want to do violin. I want to play. And my parents, there was a bunch of coincidences that were very cool, which were that my grandma's boyfriend, he had a small violin from when he was a child. He never played after that, but he just had this violin. And my dad's best friend is a luthier. So, specifically he makes violins. And so I was like, okay, let's bring it to him so he can fix it. And then I was like, okay, now I have a violin. I have to do violin. And so I really went into it very seriously for a long time. And I went to the conservatory in Milan. I played classical music for basically most of my life. And then when I was approaching like 18 years old, I was kind of like, I love it and I still want to continue playing, but I also want to explore other areas of music. And I had already had some experiences at the Umbria Jazz, and I did like 5-week programs at Berklee, and I was kind of like, I want to do more. And so I always had this dream of doing film music. And so I started doing that. And I went to Berklee for that. But my principal was always violin, and it was super cool because being a classical musician, I never really had the chance to, do cooler things that I didn't know about. And so it was very cool to, be able to do film scoring sessions and play jazz and play fiddle and, all of that. So, and I still play. I'm hoping to get back a little bit more into like the studio work, because lately I've been doing a little less of that, but it's something that I really love, and that is always a very big part of my musical identity. So yes.
But then mainly now you see yourself as a composer, singer-songwriter, and
yes,
you use your voice if you're on stage, or do you also both? Do you combine them on stage?
So actually, it's funny that you asked me that, because I was having a conversation about this with my mom last week, where she was like, it would be really cool if you started incorporating your violin playing a little bit more. And it's something that I really want to do. But, it's a little tough because the only problem with violin is that, differently from other instruments, it's very attached to certain styles. So, it kind of has this vibe that when you're playing violin especially in like acoustic settings and stuff like that, it always has a bit of that like country folk tone.
Right.
So doing mostly more pop oriented music, it's been a little bit harder to incorporate so far, but I'm really trying to find ways to, you know, make it fit into what I'm
Right.
doing. And so hopefully soon I will play more violin, maybe with like an electric violin or something like that, you know, a bit more rockish. And yes.
A little bit wilder. But tell me about the music you make, because you work together with Noé.
No, yeah. So I basically, well, I've been writing since I'm a kid. It's something that I've always been very passionate about, and it's kind of cool because I went to a this music school that I went to when I was a kid is a Yamaha school, and they have this really cool way of teaching where, you know, it's more based off like developing like your musical ear and your musical creativity and all of this. And basically kind of around the same time that, like at the same time where I was figuring out that I had like kind of a good voice and that I wanted to learn more about that, in the music school we started like working on writing and composing our own ideas on the piano, and so I was like, oh wait, I can sing and play at the same time. That is really cool. I can do both. And so that's when I started getting more into writing, which is something I've been doing ever since. And when I was at Berklee, I really worked on, you know, on my ideas and on my writing and all of that. And it was very cool because Noé, who is an incredible pianist and producer and just possibly the most talented person I know, we met at Berklee, but we kind of reconnected afterwards, because after Berklee we both moved to LA, and we were like sharing what we were doing, and we're like, okay, I like what you do, let's do something about this. And so very slowly in the beginning, because it was like 2020, so not the best time, but we kind of started working together on some music, and then it turned into a bit of a like distant collaboration, because I went back to Italy, he went back to France, and then, you know, in the last year that I've been in Paris and is also here, it kind of developed more and more. And so we've been working together a lot on a lot of music, both for our own personal project and also for like music for ads and for like sync companies and stuff like that. And it's really cool. I honestly, I've never been happier about a musical collaboration. We have really similar taste. It's really cool. And as I was saying before, it's mostly in the world of pop. We're still kind of, you know, we're still in the process of defining our musical identity, because we both come from such diverse backgrounds, and we also both love like many different genres of music. So it's been a challenge for us, especially at first, to kind of find the thing that we wanted to pursue, because we both kind of like to write in different styles. At least for me, for example, I used to be very into like acoustic folk, soul, you know, and same for him in other styles. So now we're kind of in the indie pop, I would say, lane of music, and it's been really cool. And we have a lot of projects that we are working on for the future, and yeah, and it's hard, as you know. It's very tough being an independent artist, but honestly, it's such a pleasure working with him that it's, you know, it compensates for the struggles of having your music heard and doing all the things that, as you also know, are a little bit annoying sometimes when you're putting out music and working on projects, but it's great.
Right.
Yes.
So the latest, you're releasing singles now, right? You're in the process of releasing once a month, or how does that work?
So we're trying to do at least, once every 2-3 months. And we've been working mostly on, releasing singles because it's at least you get that span of time where you get to really push the project and I feel like people's attention nowadays is a little bit lower than it was before, so it's easier to just focus on one thing at a time. We definitely have as an ultimate goal to maybe make like a little album or EP, something like that. But for the moment, yes, we're mostly working single to single, and we've already released 2, and we're releasing a few more between the end of the summer and and the fall. So hopefully we'll continue doing so, and at some point it's gonna work out. But it's so much fun, and obviously it's a lot of work. And I feel like nowadays you kind of have to be, you have to be a music producer, a singer-songwriter, editor, a engineer, everything. And but it's cool. And along the way, we've had the chance to work with other people also that have been, such a big support, and it's been really cool. And as I was mentioning, now we have our first music video coming out. And that is really cool. It was so incredibly bizarre working on a music video for the first time, and but it was super cool because we had a very nice environment. It was all like young people like us, just kind of on their first big project, and it was very nice doing that. So hopefully there will be more.
That's amazing. And then do you work on under a label, or you still you're independent?
So for now, we're still independent. We're definitely, like, our goal is to find someone that will appreciate our music and that will hopefully help us, especially, for everything that that regards, like promotion and marketing and all of that. That is the part that is the hardest when you're on your own. But at the same time, there's the good side of it, which is, being able to have total freedom over what you're doing, which is not bad, especially nowadays. And so, but yeah, for now we're just working on our own. We have we have been for the last few years. So yes, that's awesome. Kind of right now.
And then, so you perform as a duo as well?
Yes, we do. We started pretty recently because that's also something that obviously it's not super easy to do unless you have a booking agent and all the the usual things. But we kind of got back into performing recently, and it's been super nice. And I'm hoping to find more opportunities because honestly, even when it's just the two of us, like piano and voice and guitar, it's really cool. And obviously it would be even cooler if at some point we get the chance to have like kind of like a band situation. Right. But we actually did one show last year in Milan for a festival called the Veranico Festival, and we were in that occasion, we were a trio. We had a drummer. It was very cool. So I think that would also be something that could be very nice, because at the end of the day, when you have really good musicians, you don't even need that many to actually have a cool project that you can perform. So yeah, we're trying to get more into performing, and it's kind of cool because here in Paris there's a lot of venues and a lot of places where people go very often, and people really like to go to shows. I've noticed, which is pretty cool, and it's something that I was missing out a little bit when I went back to Milan, which is where I'm from, because there's less venues, there's a little less attention to live shows. But here in Paris it's cool, so we're trying to push our project now. We're trying to do maybe like a so-far sound concert, and we're trying to build up on with our project in order to get a little bit more visibility, and hopefully it's gonna work out.
Well, that's so exciting, and that's also very natural. If you start a new project and a collaboration, it feels like you're square one. You need to build it out and just tell everybody, hey, this is my new band. You've been a musician for a long time, but this is my new project. So you still, and promoting Vibe. And tell me a little bit, because I'm curious if your music with this duo is really well produced. I really love the sounds of it. So I mean, from what's available already, right? I'm excited for the next ones to come out. But then how do you approach changing that produced version into a live setting? Because you're talking about missing the drummer, but I mean the unplugged version is really beautiful too, I assume. But how do you approach going from a heavy produced pop version to a live setting?
So actually, when it's funny that you ask this, because it's something that in the beginning I was a bit concerned about, and then the magic happened, which is Noé is an extremely gifted pianist, like seriously. And he comes from a background of classical and jazz, and he was like this kid prodigy pianist. So whenever we tried to turn the very heavily produced songs into just more acoustic versions, somehow it always worked out, because he has such incredible piano skills that it just happened very fast and very naturally. And to me it was kind of funny, because especially a few weeks ago we had this like the first big gig that we've had this year, which was we were opening for a jazz singer. Her name is Sarah Lankman, and she's very known in the French scene and jazz scene, and we were a little concerned, because she was like, I want you guys to open for me, but we were a bit stressed to be a little bit over the top, because we do a very different style of music. And we started rehearsing, and to me it was very funny, because every time like Noé was playing something, to me it sounded absolutely incredible, and then it was like, no, it doesn't work like this, it's not working out, I don't like it. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's great. So it's very easy when you have someone who's so good at playing that they can actually have wonderful ideas on, and I have to say, somehow the songs, and I guess that maybe comes because most of the time when we write, it comes from a more like acoustic type of idea, so then it kind of get transformed into something more produced, but it'll always most of the time it comes from a more organic type of sound, and so then it's kind of easier to go back to having it more acoustic and more intimate. So yeah, but yeah.
Well, that's the proof, right? In a way that it's a good song if it still stands with just like melody and piano, and then it's a good song.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I didn't mean to be like, yes, it's a good no, but yeah, no, for sure. And to me, it's always important to, whenever like I'm writing something, to think, okay, is this good because there's 20 different great but still like produced things, or does this song stand on its own? And I have to say that so far, everything we've worked on, it was really cool because it always worked very well, even without like the pop production and all of that. And but again, I think that really comes from the fact that both me and Noé, we have a very like we have a long history of doing many different styles of music, and you know, we've both spent our whole lives working a lot on our musical knowledge, and so hopefully it comes out a bit when we do our songs, and I hope that the people hear that too. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice that it always kind of works out somehow.
That's great. I want to learn a little more about your creative process, and how do you approach your compositions? How do you write?
So it's funny because it's kind of been the same exact thing ever since I'm like 8 years old, and it's actually something that partially it's been cool for me to work with someone else, because it made me see, you know, also things that they're not necessarily flaws, but they're things that, you know, you can work on and improve your own process. Because, for example, for me, I've always had this thing where when I write something, very rarely it's a long process. Like, it's always, if it's something that I'm actually happy about, that I want to pursue, it's always like it has to happen in a certain amount of time. Like, it's very rare that I will go back to something 2 weeks later. Like, it's not my vibe. It's like I have to do it right now, and if it doesn't flow in the moment, then it's probably, it means that maybe that's not so worth pursuing.
But you sit down for it, or is it just coming to you at different moments in the day?
It kind of depends. Sometimes there's most of the time I'm like, okay, you know, I'm here, I don't know what to do, I'm just gonna sit down and try to write about something that maybe it's been like troubling me for days. Maybe I have like, maybe most of the time it's like I know what I want to talk about, and I know that there's something that needs to come out, but maybe I don't have, you know, necessarily the musical inspiration, like that I'm like, idea. That doesn't happen too much. It's more of like a feeling of being like, I need to say something right now. And most of the time it happens very late at night, which is a bit unfortunate for my neighbors, but apart from that, yeah, it's usually just like I sit down and I start just singing. And before, it used to be, I used to do it a lot with piano. In the past 7 years, I would say it happens more with guitar, even though it's not at all an instrument that I play especially well. It's just I'm a self-taught guitar player. I play very badly. Doesn't really matter though. It does the job for what I need. And yeah, and I just start singing and putting down lyrics, and if I feel that it's cool and I want to continue, I usually get very invested in the moment. And one thing that was cool that happened when I started working with Noé is that like for me, one thing that's always been very present is that once I write something, especially lyrics, it's very tough for me to change them. Like, I don't love making changes to something that I've already set my mind to. And at first, sometimes with Noé, it was like, but why? Like, worst case, you can go back to it, but you can change things. It's not set in stone. So it was cool for me because, again, I've always had this mentality where like I wrote something, it's set in stone, it's not changing, it's there, it's done. And working with him, that has changed drastically because he's not at all like that. He's a constantly changing person. So whenever we're working, literally it happened like 3 days ago that we had this new song that we wrote, and I'm very attached to the lyrics of this song. And there were two moments in the song where he was like, it's very cool. I love the meaning. I love everything. It's great. But it sounds a little bit too intense for a first verse. And I was like, I don't want to change the lyrics. I'm too attached to these lyrics. I don't want to change them. And so we like fought. We didn't really fight, but like we had a bit of an argument for like a few days over this. And then finally I was like, okay, let's try something. Let's give it a shot. And ultimately we kind of came to a compromise. And in my heart, I'm still not very happy about it because I'm just like that. But at the same time, I do realize that it's better and it flows better. And yeah, and you do have to follow other people's instincts sometimes, because it's easy to just be like, no, I wrote this line and I want it to be like this. And so that's been kind of cool for me, because it also allowed me to work with, not only with Noé, but even when I work with other people that maybe I don't know so much, it's like, it's very, very common that they will ask you for drastic changes, and you have to do it. And maybe they're paying you, maybe they have a deadline in 3 hours, and who knows, different things could happen, but you have to change it. And so that's been helping me a little bit, to kind of also improve my workflow and to be able to not be fixated on one specific idea, and to kind of open my vision of what the song could be. Yeah.
And then, so when you have lyrics and you got some melodies, do you write them down in like Finale or Sibelius, or you just go straight to like Logic or Ableton?
To be honest with you, my classic thing is memos on my phone. I have thousands of memos on my phone that I also have the very habit. Yeah, like voice memos. I'd never even name them. So I just have like, and it's been nice because like a few years ago, they changed this thing in the voice memos of the iPhone where like it tells you the address.
Right. So you can trace it back.
Exactly. So at least I'm like, okay, I was in that place. But before it was just like new recording 914 or like,
yeah.
So every time I'm like, I have to remember when it was that I wrote something. But literally, yeah, I think I have like 3,000 voice memos in my phone. And then when it's like, okay, I feel like it's worth having a better version of this, I just go on Logic and record it. And that's kind of how I do it. Yeah, I'm too lazy to notate anything. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at it. And but I used to do it back in the day, especially because now it's not like that anymore. But before, when you were like like depositing your song into the BMI ASCAP, I mean, in my case it's the Italian one, but it's the same thing. You had to send the score with the melody, with all the parts, and I remember it was a nightmare for me. Now you can just put a recording, so that's great. But yes, so that's kind of what I do, just press record and go.
Right. How about this question? Can you share a significant moment when your music had a profound impact on somebody's life?
That's a really, really cool question. Well, I have to say, okay, I have one story that I think is very cool, even though it's not necessarily even like, it's not even a song that I ever like, I never put it out, I never released it or anything like that. But I remember that it was my second year at Berklee, and I, like in general for me, whenever I write, it tends to be very often related to like love or just personal growth in some way. And it was at a point where I was like, I've never written a song about a friend. And I have my best friend. She's been my best friend since we're like 3 and 4 years old. And I was like, it's insane that I've never written a song for her. And so I remember that I had like just a random show at like 9:21, I think. No, 11:40. It was
Right.
11:40.
1A or 1W?
I think it was 1A in that occasion. And I wrote this song then, and she was going through like a bit of a specific moment in her life, and I told this other friend of mine to to put the live streaming in front of her and to record the reaction, and I presented this song, and it was a song that I wrote about her, and it was so nice because this other friend recorded her reaction to me singing it, and to me saying like, oh, this song is the first song that I've ever written for my best friend, and she was like crying like a baby. She got so emotional. And then this friend, when he showed me the video, he recorded me reacting to this video, and so I was there crying. It was this whole situation of crying, and it was very nice because also obviously since I was in the US, we didn't get to see each other very often. At that point we were just seeing each other for vacation when I was back in Milan, and it was so nice, and I remember she told me such beautiful things, and she was like, this means so much to me. And I don't know, it was just very, very special moment for me. And yeah, and in general, I've eventually had a few other experiences of like writing something for a very good friend and seeing their reaction, and seeing how emotional they got, and how happy they were that I did it. And so I would say that that's the best for now reaction, a positive reaction I've had from songs that I've written. And it's really special. I think it's really nice to have that sort of nice impact, just without it's not a special like global impact in any way. It's just like a personal thing, and it's very cool. So yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think if you can touch one person with your music, that's the start. That's what you do it for.
Exactly, honestly.
One person at a time.
Exactly, one at a time, and it's just, I don't know, it's just great. And even whenever, like when you're playing, to me that the most beautiful like comments I've gotten were most of the time from people I didn't even know, random people that were like, I heard your song by random coincidence. It appeared on my Spotify or whatnot, and it really touched me, and I cried. I was like, thank you. And it's even more beautiful that people take the time to let you know. And it's already great, even if I'm not famous or nothing. But it's already so special that it makes me, it's something that it makes me want to do more and more, because I can only imagine how beautiful it must be for people that actually are lucky enough to have a bigger audience, to like how lucky they are that they can get to touch people's hearts so often. And that's kind of like, to me, that's the goal, more than any superficial thing that can come along with having your music be heard. But really that's the goal. So hopefully again.
Beautiful. And in your lyrics, do you have like messages about certain topics that you often, or do you feel there's a sort of theme going on, or they're all over the?
So it kind of depends. It's one thing, again, as I was mentioning before, it's definitely a bit of a way for me to express a lot of things that maybe I don't get to express in real life because I'm terrible at it when it comes to actually telling people stuff. So ever since I'm very young, it's always like a way for me to really put all my feelings out in the open. But definitely as I grew older, there's been more like self-reflection and more like, songs concerning like my, everything that has to do with like mental health and just like personal growth in that sense. So and also lately I've been thinking a lot about like things that have to do with like body image and I've been putting more and more of that into my songs, which is kind of cool because at the end of the day I feel like it's like a normal process that at first you talk more about like the way that you feel for other people, the way that you relate to other people, and then as you start growing up it's more like, but how do I feel about this, and how does this affect me, and how do I relate to these things that are happening to me? So it's definitely taken more of a, I don't want to say egocentric, but it's a little bit more in a positive way. It's a little bit more related to self-reflection rather than just, oh, I love you, you don't love me, I'm sad, so and it's cool, and I'm and it's it also really goes with what's going on in my life at the time. Sometimes I have these moments where I'm completely paralyzed songwriting wise and I get super scared. I'm like, I will never write anything ever again, and then obviously it's not true, but it happens a lot. And one thing I've been reflecting a lot about recently is how sad it is that when you're very happy, sometimes it's very hard to actually be inspired. And it's almost always been the case for me, which is a little bit sad because I'm like, I want to be happy. I want to be able to be happy and to write things that have a meaning and that I connect with. And but again, I think as one grows up, you find a better balance when it comes to it, and you're able to not only be inspired by sad and depressing things. So that's kind of what I'm aiming to do at the moment.
Yeah, I heard this one artist, I don't quite remember who she was super famous and it was in the news like 20 years ago, and she said, yeah, I broke up because I need drama in my life to be a musician and I need something to write about. She really addressed that she needs to be in a in a complicated place constantly.
Yeah.
So she created it for herself, she said, which is in a way it's a great self-reflection. Yeah.
And it's so true for most artists. Like, I don't know, but I remember, who hasn't been obsessed with her, but when I was a teenager, like, and Adele became famous, I was like completely obsessed with her. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And I remember seeing interviews from her where she was like, I wrote this incredible album and I'm in this lowest point of my life.
Right.
And now I'm like, I have a kid and I'm married and I'm happy. And then eventually she divorced also. So she still had she was probably like, I don't have inspiration anymore. No, but jokes apart, like, and she was like, now I'm scared because I don't know, will I be able to write about these positive things that are happening in my life? And she definitely was. And I think ultimately everyone is. It's just that you need to do more internal search in order to take the good parts out in the same with the same depth that you easily do with the sad parts. So it's a constant search. So and who knows, maybe at some point I will write about things that now don't even concern me at all, but it's something I'm very curious to explore when it will happen. So
Right. And then, so you were talking that you also write for like commercial, like film, television, or like. And
yes, so it's something that actually I was introduced by Noé also, which is there's this really cool world that not a lot of people know too much about, of like sync companies, meaning like it's basically companies that look for artists that do kind of any style of music, to be honest, and then they are like the in between the artist and then like big companies that are looking for music and for their ads and or for their TV shows. It can be anything. Usually they have different targets that they have depending on the company, and it's really cool because you get to write really cool stuff, and you actually get paid for it, which is really nice. And most of the time you have a pretty good amount of freedom on what you're doing, unless obviously it's like a specific brief that that they send you. Sometimes there's like occasions where it works that like the company contacts you and they're like, we want you to do this specifically. Other times where it's like, we want you to do this, but there's other 30 people that are doing it, so it depends on what the company will like. There's many different types, and it's really cool. And right now we actually just we did a whole album of like songs that are going to hopefully end up in TV shows and commercials and social media content and stuff like that. And it was really fun because we had like this, I don't know, 10 songs that we really liked, but we were like, maybe they don't fit our personal project right now, so it would be really cool to have use for them. And so that's kind of what we do. And obviously, for example, Noé does a little bit more than me with this, because he does a lot of like instrumental productions also. And for me, it's usually it's like I do top lines and I sing. And even though I'm really trying to get back into doing more instrumental stuff as well, because I have all this random film scoring background that I really want to take advantage of. And but it's really fun. And sometimes I just get like, they send me tracks and they're like, okay, do the top line for this, and it's really cool to me. It's really fun. It's like my favorite hobby, to be honest, especially when I don't have to, maybe they tell me like, write an empowering song, or and it's not, I can just say whatever. It's cool. I just have a theme, and it's like a very cool exercise. And yeah, and sometimes they ask me to do it in Spanish and Italian and French. It's very cool. So, and then it's cool that you get to see your song in like an ad or a TV show or something. Just now I recently got which now maybe I'm saying it and maybe it's not gonna come out now, but it should. But I got a really cool sync for the the Kardashian show, and they're from what I know, they're gonna use this song of mine that I never released. It's a song that I had written like 3-4 years ago. It was in English. It was like a bit of like a Dua Lipa style kind of thing. And then I did this master class with like an Italian very big label. And they were like, cool. Why, as an exercise, why don't you try to do it in Italian? And I just did it kind of as an exercise. And then nothing ever happened with this song. And
but it's recorded.
Yeah, and it's recorded. And like a year ago, this friend of mine was like, they're looking for a song in Italian, like a pop song. Do you have anything? And I was like, I have one song, this one song. And then nothing happened with it. And then I got contacted again recently, and they were like, okay, we're going to use it now. And so if everything goes as it should, there's going to be this episode, and there's going to be like Kim Kardashian with my random pop Italian song that I was never going to use playing underneath, which is really cool. So, who
knows, you might actually have to tour it. Maybe it becomes a hit.
I might have to release it. No, probably not. But, but it would be really funny because it was really a song that I put aside, and I was like, no, I'm never gonna use this song. And it was kind of cool to me that they had an interest for this song in the US, because they didn't care about it in Italy, but they did in the US, and it's in Italian. And to me, I have a whole special relationship with singing in Italian. I never really do. I don't know why. I just don't love writing in Italian. It's a bit complicated. And so it's a very funny turn of events. But
that's a great story, and yeah, looking forward to see that one. So you play a part in my album, right? And it's a bunch of women, and because we're supporting this chocolate that's made by women. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your opinion, or have you faced any stereotypes or biases being a female musician, and what do you do, and how to challenge it?
So I have to say that I consider myself to be very lucky in this sense, because ever since I'm a little kid, like, it's always been like, I've never had any especially negative experience, and which is pretty surprising considering that I've always done things that are very male oriented. Because I mean, violin, for example, now it's actually changed drastically. Like, actually now I know way more women that play violin, but I feel like it's more of like our generation kind of thing, because it was definitely not the case before. And then I went into film music, which also heavily male oriented thing that in the music industry. And definitely one thing that I've seen very often is I've had a lot of friends that maybe were doing more female oriented things that were very looked down, like they were not being valued in the same way, which is something that always made me really mad, because again, maybe just because I was doing things that were very male oriented, I didn't have this problem too much, and because I was like seen as one of them a little bit. And that really frustrated me, because it's not like, what is this thing? It doesn't, why if you're just a singer or just something, why is it something that has a bad connotation? And I never understood that. But at the same time, one thing that's definitely happened to me is that because I was a woman, I had to deal with things that most of my male counterparts wouldn't have. Like I remember I did an interview for an internship in LA, and the guy was like, okay, cool, you can get the job, everything is great, but I have to tell you, there's been problems with these composers and females before, where like the girls were trying to get with the composer, which to me is like insane. I'm pretty sure it was not the case. And I was like, okay, but why are you even telling me? Like, first of all, I would never, but second of all, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't ask any male person the same question, and you wouldn't be like, are you okay with this? Like, this to me was a first, and I was very upset at it. I was like, okay, I just want to do the job. I don't care. I'm here because I want to work. And then there's definitely been times where I was not as highly considered as other dudes. But again, because I don't know, I guess it's a bit in my personality. I've always been like, I don't care. I don't want to deal with this. I kind of found a balance, but definitely I've seen a lot of people struggling with this, and it's very frustrating because it's annoying that you, in order to not have to feel that, you have to, you know, kind of really impose yourself in a way that for some people it's a natural thing, but for other people it's something that they have to do. And to me, it's something that I very, very often witnessed, and it's always bothered me a lot, you know, because it's okay if your personality is a bit you know, it's a bit imposing and stuff, but why do you have to be especially imposing as a girl in order to be considered, you know? And that is it's like such a double-sided thing. So yeah, I would say that I've been very lucky in this, but at the same time I've seen so much around me that's concerned me and bothered me. So many, especially not so much when I went to the US, to be honest, but when I was in Italy, like at the conservatory, like teachers that would favor girl students just if they did certain things, and just if they, you know, came to class dressed in a certain way, you know. It was very and male teachers just not considering their girl students at all, because they automatically assume that they were just, you know, the dumb opera singer or the dumb harp player, you know, kind of. So yeah, luckily as I grew up, I started seeing it a little less, but when I was younger, and you know, I wasn't even that actively aware back then, obviously, because I was so young, but definitely I've seen a lot of not great things when it came to women in, you know, making their way into the music industry. But at the same time, I've met so many incredible, talented, and super cool women that do things that are not women jobs. And super successful. Just the other day, this girl that was in the film scoring department, I saw that she was nominated alongside Hans Zimmer and her boyfriend, who's also a composer, for like the music of this really cool documentary about like prehistoric life, and it's so cool. And I remember her. She was maybe one of the 10 people that I remember from the film scoring department that I remember every time I had a session where I was playing for her. I was like, wow, this girl is so cool. She writes such cool music. She's so advanced for just being a college student. And you know, that, or literally 2 days ago, I met with this group of composers from this company that I'm doing some stuff for here in France. And there was this girl, she's a film composer also, and she's doing super cool stuff. And, you know, I don't know, I feel like there's definitely more space now. There's a lot of women that are just, you know, they don't care about anything, about any obstacle and anything, and they just go for it, and it's super cool. And I'm very happy to be able to, you know, to meet people like this, because it's very inspiring and it's very cool, and it makes me, you know, it makes me feel like, okay, there's a place for all of us, and it's really cool. So yes.
What advice would you give an aspiring musician who's just starting their career?
That's a good question. Let me think. So, first of all, to be very patient, which is something that actually, even to this day, I'm surprised that I was ever that patient, especially with violin. I don't know how much patience I had as a kid, because it's really, because now I also teach kids here and there, and it's crazy to me to see the amount of effort that you have to put into it. But at the same time, the most important thing is to just, you know, to not be discouraged by the difficulties of it, especially when you start getting a little older and you get easily discouraged by how hard it is to actually make it. And, you know, to just really keep on going, even though, even when you don't have a lot of like support, you know, because it's really easy to be discouraged if you are not lucky enough, you know, to maybe have parents that do music, or to have a brother that does music, and or a sister, you know, that someone that can help you out. But yeah, the most important thing is to just take things slowly, because music is a very long journey. It's not something that you can learn to do in 6 months or even in 5 years, to be honest. It's a lifetime commitment. and yeah, so to really, I really think the most important thing of all is to be very patient with everything, to be patient, but especially with yourself, because it's really easy to, and also to not compare to others too much, especially now, because I don't know, sometimes I get so depressed. I watch these videos of like 3-year-old violin prodigy plays like some insane like sonata or something, and you're like, wow, it's crazy. But it makes no sense. The comparison, it makes absolutely no sense. It's good if it's something that helps you thrive and helps you improve yourself, but otherwise, no. It's really bad. It's not good. There's too much content of incredible people playing everywhere, so it's important to take all these things with, in Italian we say prendere con le pinze, like to take with the, I don't even know this word in English. The literal translation is like to take things with tweezers, meaning like
one at a time.
So
yeah, step by step. I like that. Yeah. So where do you see yourself? What's your definition of making it? Where do you see it? Where are you? What's your dream?
Well, if you asked me when I was 8, it was win a Grammy. Now I have I've actually changed my mind. Now, to be honest, now for me, making it would be really being able to know that there's a certain amount of people that are somehow touched by my music and somehow, you know, that really care about it. And for me, like whenever I think about big artists and obviously, I mean, the basic dream would be to be like, I want to be a star, I want to fill stadiums and all of that. But then in the reality of it, what I see and what I actually like aspire to the most is when I see like some artists that maybe they've been doing music for like 40 years and they're not filling stadiums, but they are filling every venue that they go to, and they have their audience that adores them. And even if it's more limited, but it's so like it's a like lifetime thing, you know. It's not just, you know, great grand things for 10 years. It's like a whole life of having that feeling of knowing that people care about what you do, and having your niche audience of people that really love what you do. So I would say that that would be like the dream, to be honest, in terms of like my own project career. Other than that, you know, being able to work with certain specific artists and to, you know, maybe write music for some cool movie but yeah, I really think the main thing would be to be able to get to a point where you know that you have like a faithful audience that you've created that will follow you to the end of the world. That is cool. That is like the ultimate goal, I think.
Beautiful. They can find you on Instagram and your website.
Yes. So my Instagram is Giulia. It's a weird spelling. It's Giulia. It's the Italian. Emily Dukes, which is Emily Dukes is my artist name. So you can find me with that name in everything, on Spotify, on Apple Music, YouTube, everything, TikTok, you know, all the. And actually, I recently did a little website with Noé. It's Emily Dukes Noé Zagroun .com, and you can find all of our music in there as well. And again, there's gonna be our video out by the time this is out too. So yes, and hopefully there will be new songs as well out. And
I'll put it all in the description, so yeah, people can check it out. Yeah.
And thank you so much for thinking of me and
thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to have you be part of my project and to get to know you. And we met like 10 years ago, right? And then later on you're like, hey, I'm at Berklee now.
Oh, crazy. Yeah. It's been a really long time. And it's cool because we met in Italy and then again in the US.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of music, right? You stay connected, and yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, and truly the Berklee family is like, it's a whole. All my friends I have so many friends from everywhere, and that I'm still super in touch with, and it's really cool. And even here in Paris, like 90% of my friends they all went to Berklee. It's really cool. We just reconnected with each other, and so yeah. Hopefully I will get to see you in real life soon.
Yes, I should go to Paris. I have not been in a while. I think I was in Paris in 2018. Yeah.
Whenever you're here, you let me know.
I'll let you know. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. And
so much.
Be in touch.
Super cool.
Bye.
Bye.
As I conclude this episode of ViviTalks, I want to express my sincere gratitude for joining me in this musical journey. I hope you enjoyed exploring the stories and experiences of the incredible female musicians on my album. To stay updated on our latest episodes, subscribe to ViviTalks on your favorite podcast platform. Connect with me on social media through Vivitalks, and please check out my album Typuhthâng. a musical exchange featuring 100 female musicians to empower female cacao farmers of Virunga State Park in Congo. It's about more than just music. It's about making a positive impact in the world. Your support is part of that journey, so thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, keep celebrating the power of music, and let's continue to amplify the voices of remarkable women in the industry. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep the music flowing. With love and gratitude. Till soon.